In this episode, we will look at the dynamic world of African agriculture and how Unitrans is contributing to the industry through its innovative solutions and commitment to moving this industry forward. Joining me for this conversation, we have Craig, Chris, and Nicola.
Thanks, Ntobantu. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm Chris, Business Development Manager for Unitrans Agriculture.
Hi, I'm Nicola, and thanks for having us. I'm Nicola Brevner. I'm the Shake Manager for Agriculture.
Thank you so much. And how about you, sir? What is your role?
I'm Craig Murrell. I'm also a Business Development Manager in Unitrans Agriculture.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Let's start with you, Craig. Can you maybe give us an overview of what the agricultural landscape in Africa looks like?
Super. So I just want to start by sort of contrasting Africa and South Africa.
Okay.
We can look at the sophistication and diversification in South Africa as sort of being like the lonely child in Africa. So what we're seeing is that we are really diversified, really integrated in South Africa. We've got end-to-end solutions. We've really got solutions that play every role. We don't see that replicated throughout Africa. So that's something that we're trying to do. We're trying to solve.
Right.
We're trying to bring affordable and accessible food all across Africa as Africa's needs continue to grow.
The other thing we also are noticing is that there seems to be a lot of international funding into Africa, not only for exports, but also to create food security within regions. Certain examples can be Saudi Arabia, the Netherlands. There's a lot of European input at the moment as well.
And how is that filtering through onto the continent? In what way?
It's filtering in through creation of brand new mills, brand new projects, where those products will be exported, most likely grown with a secondary crop to create that food security in that region.
You touched on the fact that Unitrans is an end-to-end player. How has the organization positioned itself in that way?
So we're really positioned ourselves as a turnkey solutions provider. The need for having multiple different partners, multiple different service providers isn't there when you partner with Unitrans. We come in and we offer truly a turnkey solutions package for you. Whether you're a food processor, a food distributor, whether you're in a textile space, we will do everything that is required to bring the raw material to your door, and then you can continue to do your thing. And then we will take that refined and finished material to the consumer.
If I may jump in there, the key solutions we provide are very much customer-based solutions.
Okay. So it's not a cookie cutter model.
No, no model is a cookie cutter model in agriculture. Whether that be due to weather conditions, soil types, your irrigation. So all those factors play into creating a specific solution per client. Not every implement works everywhere. And not every solution works everywhere. So it's very much individualized, client-based solutions. This can be seen in our land preparations, how different clients request different activities in different orders, based on the soil types and based on their needs due to their type of crop they're putting in. For example, there's not one type of sugarcane. There's several types that grow in different areas and different regions and need specific things for that sugarcane type. So we provide everything from maintenance and services, whether that be your roads, your civils, your drains, your dikes, your irrigation, whether it's maintenance or installation or rehabilitation, starting from scratch. We also look at your land preparation side of things. To be able to run a farm, you have to have good roads, but then to actually run the farm, you need to look at your land prep side of things. Then from there, we do harvesting, and that's where Craig linked it to bringing in the raw materials to the customer so they can create that finished good. And then that's when afterwards we then finish out the finished product to the client.
But at the same time, okay, you've also got to consider that every single time you look at a solution for a client, you also have to consider the different risks that are specific to that region, okay, or to that market. And the other thing is that I think what the big thing that we also do is we get very involved with the communities around those projects. Okay, so it's not just the client. We look at the client, obviously, but it's the community within which you are going to operate. And that will also determine a lot about what happens with the contract.
Yes. Yeah, lots of these agricultural industries are not based in cities where everyone is. For example, Shinavan and Mozambique in Mozambique, you're nowhere within 3 hours of a city by car.
Sorry, but let's be honest. We haven't got one single project
No.
that's close to a city.
No. So
we are in all the places that you would not see on the tourist calendar.
Yeah.
That is where we are.
So it's always involving local communities as well. So it's not only a client, it's local communities, local government, and the client. So it's a full community project, not just a client solution.
It is.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is you have to also consider, because we work in so many different countries, okay, there is so much different legislation. So if we go into those countries, we have to consider those laws, and we've got to be within that legislation as well.
Maybe, Nicola, while you're talking about other countries, give us a flavor of which other territories Unitrans Agriculture is operating in.
Well, at the moment, we are in, obviously, thinking just across the border, we're in Eswatini, we are in Mozambique, we are in Malawi, we are in Zambia, we're in Tanzania. I think I covered all of them.
And would you have shared responsibilities for all those markets, or that role will be decentralized?
It's every single site will have a team,
Okay.
and in that team, it covers everything. So your management crew, everything else, but Sheik is a big part of it.
Mhm.
So I have a team on each site.
Okay. Your solutions are customized. It sounds like most contracts are bespoke. You start from first base in terms of how you create a solution for that customer. And there's additional levels of complexity that you need to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm guessing within all that, there must be a set of core competencies that make you fit for purpose in terms of operating in this space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Our key deliverable is product to mills.
Okay.
Reaching what is called a DRD.
Which means?
Your daily deliveries.
Okay.
For example, you could be set a target of 4,000 tons a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be our main focus, is delivering that tonnage to the mill.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because running the mill costs a certain amount of money, but also the client's also budgeted on producing a certain amount of product. And it's not a year-round operation.
Right. And the different kind of crops that you would be able to handle?
So we can handle anything from lucerne to sugarcane. We are going to be starting cotton. So we can also look at other crops.
So nothing is off limits.
Exactly
Okay.
that.
No, because I don't think the core competencies are actually limited to one type of crop.
No.
You can apply the same model across.
So if you look at the competitor landscape, what differentiates you from other players also in this space?
Something that really differentiates us from other solutions providers in the landscape. And I mean, I'll be honest, I've been with Unitrans for 2 months now. I joined very recently. So when we call our customers our partners, we're not joking, we're really serious. And I say that because we leverage our balance sheet to do that. So that means we take on debt and we open up our balance sheet to go into a country or into an operation with another customer.
Wow.
It's not just an invoice that we send. It's not just, we're going to rent some stuff and see how it goes. We enter into multi-year long-term agreements with our partners. We reach into our own pockets to be able to do this. We raise funding, we raise capital, we deploy that capital alongside our partners. That is very unique.
Absolutely. So much skin in the game, right? That's what they call it.
The reason it's also so large scale that Craig is mentioning is the fact that we don't focus on one operation. We are focusing on the loading and hauling, the land preparation, the irrigation installation, the planting, seed cane transport, civil services, road maintenance, drain maintenance,
Vehicle
and
maintenance.
it goes on even further. We have contracts where we supply every vehicle for the entire estate. And when I say every vehicle, I mean motorbike, buckies, up to 200 buckies on a site just to be able to run a farm.
What kind of scale farming is that?
So this example is one of our Mozambican sites. We've actually got 2 of these sites where We run the load and haul, we do the road maintenance, everything I've listed there, we actually run all of it. And it's so that the customer can have a full turnkey solution and not an end-to-end solution. It's not a linear solution, it's a full solution, a full turnkey solution for everything. The other thing we also assist with is general maintenance. The people don't realize that at these sugar estates, it's like running a small town. You're not just a farmer, you're also running just looking after the gardens. You're doing your houses, your civil works around the village. So it's maintenance on your weed whackers, your lawn mowers, so we run every single thing, and we'll do maintenance on all of that. So it's a full estate solution, not just a farmer solution or just a sugarcane solution.
While you're in that scenario, let's talk fleet specialization and how you've been able to. What are some of the solutions that you've brought for your customers?
So this specifically normally relates to weather conditions, safety as well, and as well as soil types. So one example, you can have very sandy soils, and you can have what is called the black cotton soil, which is very clayey, very thick, and it absorbs water, whereas the one holds no water. You can't be using implements that are going very deep into the ground and they're very thick clay, otherwise you'll break implements, whereas you can do that on sandy soil. So it's very much client focused as to what they need and what their land needs. And another example would be roads. So you don't want one road that fits all. And I'm sure we've seen that in South Africa and also in Africa, as we all know. And it's very expensive to tar a full estate. So we need to know the weather patterns, for example, Sena in Mozambique, the roads need to be able to handle 200 mils of rainfall, because that's the largest rainfall that they'll have. Whereas in Shinavan, you'll never have that much rain. So the roads are designed differently. So that's where things are very much tailored towards the area and the clients.
All right, let's look at some of the industry challenges. What would you say are the primary ones facing the sector in Africa and South Africa?
Sure. So, I mean, when we look up in Africa, this is one of the times where it mirrors South Africa a lot. So reception is really a limiting factor a lot of the times.
As in cell phone reception?
As in connectivity, reception, the ability to be connected, as well as actual technology. So that's just connecting your technology. So connectivity, the cost of that actual technology. So Africa is sparse. I mean, if you look at population densities in every African country, it's not like Asia. It's not like Europe. We are far from everything in Africa. So you want to close that distance with technology. And
Greg,
that's
sorry
expensive.
to interrupt you, but from somebody like me that doesn't understand the intricacies of farming, what does connectivity have to do with it?
So when you want to try and get closer to whatever it is that you're doing, closer to your people, closer to your operations, closer to your deliveries, you want to implement some technology. So you want to implement remote sensing, maybe remote control, remote control and sensing. And if you're not able to interface with that, connect with that, it's quite a challenge. But also installing that is incredibly expensive in the first place. So you're trying to replace a lot of redundancy with people having to travel far, dangerous at night with your technology. Just dial into your control center and then see what it says. But if there's no connectivity, you've spent all that money and now you can't use it. And sometimes getting support. Now you're getting an OEM from Switzerland or America, or sometimes local African OEMs, but getting them to those remote places to come and give us the support, give us the service. I think those are some challenges we encounter.
So as you're talking about that, I'm wondering, how did the farmer 20 years ago do this without all these solutions? But I guess that's why you are there, to enhance the capability and the operations and efficiencies through the application of these technologies.
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work then. It's still a lot of hard work now. But we've been able to integrate. So that's why, being a turnkey solutions provider, we take that stress off our partners and off our clients and off the farmers. We say, we're used to handling it across like 10 plus countries. We can handle it at multi-billion rand operation size. We can also handle it at local, small-scale grower size.
That is so amazing.
But I think the big thing also, when you talk about technology and stuff like, when you were talking about hurdles, were you not?
Challenges, yes.
Challenges, right? Yes. And I think, the men have been talking a lot about all of the implements and the equipment and everything else. But we forget that with this, we have to maintain all of this. So trying to maintain your technology and your implements when you are very far from any kind of hub, is an issue, to try and get implements out. And again, we come to importation, the borders. Borders are, yes, well, I think we've got stories about borders. So, but besides that, okay, then you've also got issues with, we've got safety technology, which we put into our trucks for tracking, okay? We partner with other businesses or partners to do things like driver behavior systems, so that we can coach and improve our drivers and that type of thing. But that is all technology based, okay? And it's satellite based. So if you're not going to have a hookup and to that, then you've got an issue.
Along with all that safety, it's also the training. The thing we don't really realize in South Africa is you grow up with a smartphone, a TV,
True.
a computer. You're going into parts where we mentioned you're not near cities. They haven't grown up with a computer in front of them their whole life. They haven't grown up with these smart devices. So it's also training them on these technologies, letting them understand the benefits and seeing it actually work for them and not work against them. That's one of the biggest and sometimes the most difficult thing, because people don't like to change.
Absolutely.
True.
So it's being able to see that benefit. And in terms of actual technology, you're now looking at your irrigation systems pumping at specific pressures and being calibrated on computer software to be able to pump milliliters of fertilizer in drip irrigation towards the end of the field, making sure each plant is getting fertilized properly. And that's done off actually Wi-Fi connections, and a person does it on a smart device. We use devices as well for field inspections.
Yes.
To be able to tell the farmer, how does your field look? What are the conditions? What are the challenges we're seeing? How was the actual harvesting? How was what is called windrowing? It's you don't cut and just leave it down. You cut and you stack. How does that look? How is that job being done? We're using technology in the workshops. We're using technology in procurement. They're in people management, whether it's your clock in and clocking out. There's technology in safety, not only in the vehicles, but also outside the vehicles. So it's now starting to create that, it's the bond between technology and human that's really starting to happen in Africa.
I'm getting the distinct impression that so many of us are so misguided that you think you're going to retire from corporate and go be a farmer. Rather stay in corporate. It's easier than being a farmer these days.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Yes, I'd say.
So if we look at the challenges that you've outlined so far, connectivity issues, being remote and therefore inaccessible, from struggling with maintenance issues, how has Unitrans been able to create solutions around that and mitigate those?
So one of the mitigations we have been able to do is bring in experts on site. So instead of having to bring people in from other countries, we have those experts in-house to be able to fix those problems on site, to create that efficiency and not just to delay things. The other things we have done is we've run through several systems of tracking. We've gone and found the best systems. We haven't gone for the first system. So that's one of the things that has really helped us in Africa. And then also just recording the data. Sometimes you use a system, but you don't actually realize what's been gone through that system over time. So seeing the data and actually using the data to be able to run these systems better, that's one of the biggest things.
Can you think of a real life client, customer that you've walked the journey with and you've brought these solutions in and you've seen that business turn around?
We've got one specific example where we've been working with one of our clients on soil compaction. Might not sound...
What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. It might not sound like, oh my word, soil compaction. But basically, plants are three things. They are the fruit, they are the stem, and they are the roots. Soil compaction affects the roots. The roots are where the plant take up the nutrients, take up the water. And because, all the plant really is sunlight, water, and nutrients. So now, if you're compacting your soil, it means you're driving over it, you're crushing it, you're squashing it, and it's getting tighter and tighter around those roots. Plants can't take up that water and those nutrients as efficiently. So what we've invested a lot in is a lot of technology to be able to mitigate and limit soil compaction through something as simple as always driving on exactly the same rows, not driving all over the field. So whatever crop that you farm, whether you're farming maize, cassava, cotton, sugarcane, whatever it is, you put your implements through the field. You need to put them through each and every year. So with that, if you can limit where the machines drive, you can now allow the rest of the soil to be completely uncompacted for like a ratoon crop, a long-term crop, for like 10 years. So you never have to drive over different parts of the farm for 10 years. It's only one part where you'll be compacting the soil and now taking softer and lighter implements through that to lessen soil compaction and increase yields.
And not many people have seen auto steer in action. And what really happens is,
what is that?
There's multiple suppliers. You get Trimble, FJ Dynamics, there's Raven, there's a few suppliers out there. We've used several of them, and we still are using several. But what actually happens is, throughout, you input almost like an order to this machine, and as soon as they arrive at the field, the driver, the operator, will select that order, and from there, he literally takes his hands off the wheel, and it'll drive according to GPS data that's accurate within a centimeter most times, and you'll literally drive the same lines every single time because the machine will do it for you.
So it was to the point of avoiding soil compaction.
Yes.
So when you come in and you recommend that solution to the farmer, the problem that they're experiencing is what? I've got less and less land that is farmable. Is that what the problem is?
They want to create higher yields.
Okay.
In farming, it's not about how much land you have in most times. It's your yield. It's how much are you producing per square meter or per hectare. To give an example, you could have 10,000 hectares of land, but if your yield is 50, it'll produce less than 5,000 hectares with 110 yield. So, and that's where you want to become smarter. And that's how we're making the actual estate and the farm itself smarter. And the auto steer will also make sure that your implement, or if you're planting or if you're plowing, it matches up perfectly each line. So you're not missing gaps or overlapping and creating double work. You're creating that efficiency as you do it.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is this falls under the umbrella of precision agriculture.
Precision agriculture.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's the synergy of the machine talking to the implement that you're pulling behind it. So what Chris was alluding to is like seed planting. With your drilling for wheat, which has sort of 48 seed drills at any one time, planting thousands of hectares, every little seed needs to go exactly where it needs to be. Whether you're planting maize, whether you're planting cane, whatever you are. You have complete harmony between the machine and the planter. Well, and the machine and the planter, because inputs are expensive. When you're talking about fertilizer, you want exactly the right amount of fertilizer to go exactly where you need it to go. Don't want to waste. You don't want to waste money. Don't want to increase your overheads. You want to keep the cost of that unit, whatever it is. If it's that textile, that rand per fiber. If you're talking food, that rand per calorie. You want to keep it down as much as possible so that our customers can get their foods and their products to their customers, us, the consumer, as cheap as possible.
Wow. So this is this is precision agriculture. Precision, sustainable farming, regenerative, what's the difference? Is it all the same thing?
The real difference between regenerative and precision is that precision, you're trying to reduce costs.
Okay.
So instead of blanket fertilizer application, you're now applying fertilizer specifically to specific areas within that field or within that estate. Whereas regenerative is about bringing back the life in the soil and in the crop.
Okay.
It's not about cost. So that's the main difference between the two there. Whereas regenerative farming, we do it, you'll have sugarcane planted. Craig mentioned a ratoon earlier. That's how many times you cut it and harvest it. So if I plant sugar and I cut and harvest 7 times, it's had 7 ratoons. But after you've had that crop, you now need to regenerate the soil. So we're not just planting sugarcane again. You're now planting a legume, for example, sun hemp, to restore that nitrogen within the soil.
Sun hemp, you said?
Yes, to restore that nitrogen. So that's where you're creating that regenerative farming. The other side of it is that you can look at what's next to the fields. You don't want to destroy the river next to the field or that river to take over your field. It's about creating that balance within your estate as well.
But isn't it also the leveling of the fields? Because, I mean, you also want to, when you level, you also, it's about the movement of soil, and you're not actually doing too much of it.
Yes, so we used to do what was called laser leveling, and that's where you had to place lasers on the side of the field and literally measured. You see those civil engineers and construction on the side of the road with those yellow blocks where they're measuring distances with the lasers. We used to do laser leveling like that. What we do now is GPS leveling, and that's where it's very, very precise. And you're moving as little soil as possible to create a level field. And that's another way of not destroying the environment and the topsoil as much, and also becoming more efficient.
But I'm just saying, it's actually amazing to watch one of those tractors when they are doing it, because the 1 minute it's collecting soil, okay, and the next minute you see him releasing the soil to another portion of the field where it needs to be built up, so that your drainage and all of that is actually at most optimum. So you're not having a lot of water running away from your plants.
It's unbelievable how much technology is being, the different types of applications for farming. I mean, like, this is incomprehensible. Like, so much respect for the farmer, hey?
There's not one way to farm. Like, I think there's 7 ways to irrigate.
Okay.
So just to water your plants, there's so many different ways. So that it just shows the differences and how it's not a one size fits all.
Let's talk about drone technology, because that's not so intimidating for me.
Can I tell you the coolest thing about drones?
Tell us.
Unlike your big tractors, if you want to apply some fertilizer or if you want to just scan your perimeter, you don't even have to take the drone through the field. It goes over the field. So you have zero surface compaction, zero soil compaction by flying your drone overhead.
Okay, versus if you were trying to do it on a tractor or something like that.
Exactly.
I understand.
You don't even have to. So there's now agricultural drones have got like 60, 70 liters, so kilogram tanks. So these things fly up and down that field, up and down. And this really helps us when things are remote, because now you don't have to have this massive implement that needs to try climb into remote places. But also you can farm in much more increasingly inaccessible areas. You can farm on much steeper slopes if you're farming with drones. So you can start farming a little bit further up the hill. You don't have to farm on these perfectly laser level fields.
If I think about the genesis, or where I started to hear about drone technology in applications in farming, it was mainly for pesticides, for spraying pesticides on crops. And then I heard about when you take pictures just to understand what's happening in the middle. So now, what other sophisticated applications can you do in terms of drones? Give me a real life example of something that's super amazing that you've been able to do with drones.
You can do crop counting. It's used in bananas, mangoes, where they actually count the number of crops that they have on each tree.
As in the number of bananas on a tree?
Yes.
The drone is going to do that?
Yes. There's drones that can do LiDAR surveys.
What does that mean?
So it's basically a laser survey where it can see into the ground. And
what is it looking for?
Your level of your ground. And depending on how strong the scanner is, you can also look for underground water and channels. And that's related to where you're going to find areas that'll sink. So you don't want to build a road on exactly that. So, and you need to know how deep your soils are.
Right.
You don't want to plant your nice expensive sugarcane on soil that's 10 centimeters deep. You want it nice, deep soil, healthy soil.
Right.
So that, and as well as perimeter surveying. I know at certain estates they also use them for literally going to check out problems. It could take them an hour to drive there. The drone could take 20 minutes and come back.
But whilst you're watching,
exactly that.
I mean, whilst it's flying, you are actually looking at it, and before it gets back to the depot or back to the base, you're already working on the solution.
That is incredible. Absolutely. I think this is a good way to segue into sustainability practices and how you see that playing out in Unitrans. How are we promoting sustainable agriculture practices in the way we work?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that we do is we tap into a lot of climate smart agriculture.
Climate smart agriculture.
Climate smart agriculture. So that's sort of a umbrella as well with certain practices. One of the ones that we practice the most is how we irrigate efficiently. So efficient use of water, efficient use of nutrients. You don't want to apply too much water, too little water. And then we start using technology. So now we use remote sensing as well with the client, where the client says, I just want my cotton. I just want my sugar. Just deliver it when it's ready. We'll handle everything else. We then look at the interface. We say, what are the remote sensor saying about, all right, we're ready to irrigate. Let's irrigate by 5 mils on this field, 3 mils on this field. And then how much fertilizer is needed. So we're able to use that so that we're putting, number one, we're keeping the cost down for the client. Number two, we're applying exactly what's needed. We're not over irrigating, not under irrigating, also not over fertilizing, which is another pillar of climate smart agriculture.
And we do this all through yield mapping. And this is telling you, earlier we spoke about yields and how important it is. Being able to map your yields also shows your fertilizer. It'll relate to your costs that go into that field. And also what damages are going to happen to that field. And what's going to happen to that soil. Because one of the biggest environmental area within agriculture is actually your soil health. The infrastructure isn't there yet for electric vehicles or natural gas vehicles yet. So you can't go for sustainability through that route just yet, but you can go through how can we actually look at nature and the sustainability of nature, and sustainability of the people as well, and the area. So
okay, but I think we also, if you look at, it's maybe not the most glamorous of everything, but if we look at our operations that we run, we look at stuff like water reticulation, okay, and reusing of water. So, and our clients are doing exactly the same thing. So these are things that are very important. I mean, if you're going to use water, you've got to find a way of cleaning it and reusing it. But it's something that we all know our continent doesn't have a lot of.
Yes.
So we need to look at it. And I think with something that Chris was alluding to is when he was saying that sustainable is, you've got to also look at the communities. You've got to raise the communities, okay? So that and it comes to very much to the education, to the training, and for them to understand their part in this whole thing.
I love where you're going. How does Unitrans engage with communities in the areas that you operate in?
Very closely, I'd say. Especially, okay, if you look at the example I gave you earlier about that road in Malawi.
Yes.
Okay. We do, and because of we do a lot of our work within rural communities, we find that there's a lack of understanding of normal things like traffic safety. Like, do not get too close to this vehicle when it is traveling, because it's not going to be able to stop like your car would, or something like that. So we spend a lot of time with communities doing awareness training on traffic safety, on any kind of safety, so anything to do with our vehicles. But at the same time, we also look at ways to improve those communities, because you need the community to buy into you. They've got to accept you, and with that, you have to help them to improve their lives. So, example for Malawi again is that we find that the government haven't got the resources to man a lot of these roads for traffic monitors, and so we assist. We meet with the local community leaders. We meet with the local police. And we will assist with subsidizing, you said? Subsidizing some of these people so they can work. So we're not just creating jobs, but we're also creating a safer environment.
I see that.
So for Tanzania, we did a whole thing. We partnered again with our client, and we did a whole drive on cleaning up, plastics within the forests around the estate. There is now a recycling plant. And we're talking about Tanzania, and those things are fantastic, and we can bring those to any communities we stay in or work in.
Wonderful.
And there's lots of school drives as well.
Yes.
All these estates, because they're so isolated, they normally have their own school on site.
So estate would have how many people living on it?
Depends.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the estates, but it could vary from anywhere from 1,000 up to 2,000 people and more, depending on the size.
Yes.
But these schools, it's normally a weekly thing where there's almost a drive or an education class, or there's supplying of equipment or a sports day, whether it's a lunch day, so there's ongoing education as well. So it's not this give out, it's an education to grow together.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back in-house, because I believe that Unitrans was certified as a top employer. Yes, congratulations. I'd like to talk about how that comes alive, that ethos, that philosophy comes alive internally within Unitrans Agriculture.
Can we swing this to you, Craig?
Let's get the newbie to ask what he thinks about Unitrans.
Let him sing for his supper.
So, I mean, to be honest, I found out with Unitrans being a top employer after I got there. So my expectations were, I'm excited. It's a new role. I've felt nothing but empowered. It's really interesting how they're willing to listen to new ideas. So the way that things have been done is not always the way things are going to be done. People are really open to being challenged. People are really open to being questioned. And I find there's a really good balance between the responsibility that's asked from you to say, I need you to do this, and the authority that's given to you, so the tools that they give you available, that they make available so that you can do your job. So it's fascinating. I think the balance is really good between what they ask of you and what they give you to get that done.
That is so beautiful. Your CEO was saying earlier on that he believes in employing the smartest people. Have smart people around you. So the worst thing that you can do when you employ smart people is to disempower them and not take the idea seriously.
But I think it's also, I mean, again, coming back to grassroots, with our drivers, okay, our employees, when they go back into their communities, okay, they're proud to wear that Unitrans shirt. They're proud to have that cap, okay? And every single time when we will train, we will do they'll go back and they start talking about what they've learned. Because your big thing is you change, or not change, but you influence the person who works for you, okay? And they will take that change with them back into their communities. And I think that's stunning.
Nicola, have you been here the longest? Who's been here the longest? You, Chris?
Chris. That's why he talks the most.
What's your take on the culture? I
personally love the culture.
Maybe first describe it for me. What are you experiencing it as?
So I've been very privileged. It's felt like a family to me because I've been here for a while, but I've also been part of petroleum. I've moved into consumer. I've done some work for mining, and gone into agriculture. So I've moved around, and I've always felt like I've been part of a family. I've recently moved down to Cape Town to that office there, and coming up to Joburg for the day, it's almost a reunion back with my old family. Nicola and I were joking about it now before the session. She asked her, did you manage to see everyone there? And I was like, no, not everyone was at the office today.
So you felt sad.
That kind of shows how I feel about Unitrans. Yeah. The other part that really comes into the culture side of things is when you're in these isolated depots, you're living in a community with your customer, and they end up part of your culture, and you part of theirs as well. So you end up as this partnership in this culture, and that for me was actually one of my greatest experiences. So it's not just a Unitrans culture, I feel. It's actually more our partner and us. That partnership culture on site, in the operations. that actually makes us succeed.
That's beautiful. That is really nice. I don't know how we top that, hey? But let's close with this and talk about supply chain resilience. Given some of the complexities that you've been able to touch on in terms of the agricultural supply chain, how does Unitrans build resilience into the operations?
It's people.
Yeah.
It's people. It's it's support. It's new ideas. It's not being put into a corner. Everyone comes with different ideas, and we talk, and we care. I think the caring part is huge. We care for each other. We care for our clients. We care for our communities.
The caring part makes you work past that point of where you want to stop, because it means something to you. And I feel that's very big, and that again links to that customer relationship where it's a partnership. You
don't
care.
think twice to go the extra mile.
That's exactly it. You care, so you end up going the extra mile to make sure everything succeeds.
This is not a 9 to 5.
It doesn't sound
No, it's not a 9 to 5, and it's also not a Monday to Friday.
Now, when we look, what is your outlook for the short term for the continent in terms of agriculture?
So one of the things that Unitrans is really focusing on right now is expanding, but also diversifying. So we say we're a turnkey solution provider, and we're serious about that, but we've been known for sugar. We want to be known for being multidisciplinary, multi-crop, multi-geographies.
The other short-term goal right now is safety. Whether that's high-lift trailers to avoid man-machine interaction. I'm sure you can speak about this for a while as well.
Yeah, I can. I think the big thing with you've got technology, you've got this huge equipment, you've got so many people. You've got to learn, and you've got to find ways of doing things safer. Looking at, like I said, the circumstances, and we need to partner, we need to find better solutions, we need to talk to governments, we need to talk to local communities, we need to improve things. It doesn't help you can't just leave things the way they are. And I think that ties very much into the slogan of our company.
Make it happen.
Make it happen. We do. We find ways to make solutions. We change things. We think out of the box.
You know what you guys have made happen for me today? Previously, don't judge me, but when somebody told me they went to study farming, I'd be like, just grow the tree. My grandmother grew trees in her backyard. Do a proper degree. But now I'm realizing, oh my goodness, there is so much science, there's so much technology in farming, and I think we've just barely scratched the surface today in terms of what's possible and what's actually happening out there. So thank you for schooling me. You've given me so much respect for this space.
Thank you
for your time.
Unitrans Agriculture, they're not just moving crops, they're growing the industry. Unitrans is more than just a service provider. It's a catalyst for growth and a champion of innovative practices, playing a vital role in shaping the future of African agriculture. Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to listen to the full Make It Happen series, and these episodes can be found on Unitrans' YouTube channel, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment, like, and share with a friend.